The Premier League kicks off tonight, starting with Man United against Fulham. It should be another very exciting season. What do you think's going to happen though, as for your 1 to 20 predictions? Let me know down in the comments, maybe who you think's going to get relegated, who's going to win the league. You can stick a full table down there if you want. I'm going to be doing my predictions now, and maybe there's a few surprises in here, but it's always difficult to really see anything other than City winning the league. That's not a spoiler, by the way, because it might not have happened or might not have gone for it. But also, the three teams that come up tend to struggle because financially they're not really set up to fight against these sides. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get. But let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are, and let's get into it. So we'll start off with who we think's going to get relegated, and I'm going to go for these three. So there's no necessary order, but it is kind of in this order. Now, Leicester I've got bottom. That's mainly because of a points deduction that I'm surprised hasn't taken effect yet, or if it has, I've missed it. But I thought there was supposed to be one coming in. If there is a points deduction, I think they'll get relegated. Maybe bottom's a bit harsh because they've made the Fatawu loan signing. They've made it permanent. Good signing. They've signed young centre-back from Atalanta, Caleb Okoli. Again, I've got him on Football Manager. Seems like a good player from that. But, you know, a good young centre-back there. Buonanotte from Brighton on a loan. I think that's quite a smart pickup as well because he's still very young and he's done well in that Brighton side when he's been given the chance. So I think that's a good signing. And as for losing players, Dewsbury Hall has gone for a decent fee to Chelsea, and Iheanacho has gone on a free transfer. So they haven't lost too many. I think the signings they've made so far have been good. Whether they're good enough to keep them in the Premier League, I'm not sure. But again, it kind of depends on that points deduction that I think is coming. Everton, they are a side that I've predicted to get relegated 2 seasons in a row. Obviously hasn't happened. I don't want to put all 3 teams that come up to go down, and I just think out of the 17 sides in the league, the other 17, Everton always look on paper like the weakest side, so that's probably why I go for Everton. They've made a couple of signings. Iliman Ndiaye from Marseille was obviously with Sheffield United before that and was very good for them, so that could be a good signing. Jake O'Brien, centre-back from Lyon, don't know too much about him, but €19.5 million is the fee being spoken about, so could be a decent pickup. Jesper Lindstrom from Napoli, I've seen a few bits of him, looks like a good player on a loan, but then they've sold Amadou Onana to Villa for just over 50 million. They've sold Lewis Dobbin, not someone who features, but again to Villa. They've sold Ben Godfrey as well to Atalanta, so I just think Everton's squad looks a little bit weak. Sean Dyche is a very good manager in these situations, but I think maybe it's time for Everton to drop, which would be a shame for them because I'm pretty sure this is the last season at Goodison Park. And everyone was joking that new stadium will look very good in the Championship. Well, according to my predictions, that's going to happen. Now, the other team, I've gone for Southampton in 18th, the final spot for relegation. But it was a toss-up between them and Ipswich, I'll be honest. And I've got Ipswich just staying up in 17th. I think Southampton have done some pretty good business so far. Taylor Harwood-Bellis on a permanent, Flynn Downs on a permanent. They're 2 players that were on loan last season and did well, but they've made those permanent. Ben Brereton Diaz, only €8 million apparently. That is a very good deal because he was decent for Sheffield United last season whenever they featured. He was very good for Blackburn in the Championship. I think that's a good pickup. He's a guy who knows where the back of the net is. They've also got Adam Armstrong, who just came off the back of another very good Championship season. So I think they've made a few good signings. They've made a couple of free transfers of young players from the Brazilian league, 22 and a 23-year-old from the same club, Sao Paulo. That seems it's depth at least, but and then they've got Charlie Taylor and Adam Lallana, two players with massive experience, both on frees again. I think they've done some good business. Another one I like, I don't think he'll feature much in the Premier League this season, but Ronnie Edwards, centre back from Peterborough, 21 years old, very good, always a standout in League One, a standout centre back. So he could be very good. Whether maybe he'll go out on loan to the Championship, but that's definitely one that will work out for Southampton. I'm sure of it. They haven't really sold many players. Lianco, Kaletakar and Roman Perrault, however you pronounce his name, but they were all not with them last season anyway. They were all on loan. Che Adams is the one, but again, didn't feature much. Stuart Armstrong, now a free agent, is a decent player, but probably not to Premier League standard. So that's Southampton, and that's my relegated 3. Let me know what you think. On to who we think's surviving. So the next 3 spots, 15th, 16th and 17th, are the teams that, they just stay up. They don't do too much in the league, but they manage to get over the line. Start with Ipswich in 17th. They've made Amari Hutchinson a permanent. They've signed Jacob Greaves from Hull. Great centre-back in the Championship. Was in the team of the season for the Championship, so that's a good signing. Sammy Schmodics, the top scorer in the Championship, they've signed. They've signed Muric from Burnley, good goalkeeper. And Liam Delap was on loan at Hull. They've signed him on a permanent. Ben Johnson, good right back. Calvin Phillips on loan. Now, he was awful at West Ham, but if Kieran McKenna can get the right stuff out of Calvin Phillips, that's a very good signing. And they haven't really lost many players that would play anyway. So I think they've had a good window. And I think because of their trajectory, that will get them over the line in the first season. Whether that continues, I'm not sure. But the first season, I think they will just about stay up. Forest and Brentford, these two for me, interchangeable. I always kind of predict them in these sort of spots. I think the top 10 are too strong, really, for sides like Brentford or Forest to break into it. But I've got Forest as the 16th place team. They've signed Elliot Anderson from Newcastle, good signing. Milenkovic from Fiorentina, good centre-back. But yeah, there's not much going on with them. It's a lot of outgoings. They sold Niakate, Vlachodimos, Mangala, Remo Freuler. So a lot of players leaving there rather than joining. And maybe they'll have a more settled squad this time round. I think they'll just about survive. Brentford, expecting a little bit more business from them. They've signed centre forward from Club Bruges, Igor Thiago. Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool on a permanent. I think that's a good signing. They've only really lost David Raya, but he wasn't there last season anyway, but he's permanently gone to Arsenal. So I think they've made some very good signings already. Haven't lost too many, but maybe they need a few more signings to get over the line. But I've got them in 15th place, not 14th, sorry. So sides pushing for the top half. I've got Wolves in where have I got them in? Sorry, 14th place. It's difficult because they're not really in a long list. But Wolves, I think they'll have a decent season under Gary O'Neill. Pedro Neto's gone, but again, they're not. He doesn't play often. He plays about half the games in the season, and although he's brilliant for those half the games, if they can reinvest the money to a player that can have 80% of his output but for a full season, I think they'll be better off for it. They've signed Strand Larson from the Spanish League. I don't know too much about him, striker. But yeah, Wolves, I think they'll just kind of be solid, be there. Gary O'Neill, capable manager, but I'm not sure they're going to be pulling up too many trees. I don't think they'll be getting top half. But they've still got Matthias Cunha, which is a massive plus because he really is a massive threat at the top of the pitch for goals and for assists. I wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in 30% of Wolves' goals this season for only in the games he plays in. It really wouldn't surprise me because he's such a great player at the top end of the pitch, hence why he gets picked for Brazil as well. So that's Wolves. On to Bournemouth, 13th for Bournemouth. Could maybe go a bit higher, but they were very good last season. But they have lost Dominic Solanke. Massive transfer fee, around 60 million to Spurs. Good deal, brilliant deal for Bournemouth. Spurs maybe overpaid a bit, but English striker, done very well in the league, and it's what they needed, so they'll be happy with that business. They've signed Sinisterra on a permanent. Again, another player similar to Neto. Probably not as good with output, but he'll be injured for half the games in the season. But it's a lower fee, so yeah. Enes was there on loan last season. They brought him in as well. But yeah, not too much other than that. I think Bournemouth, Solanke going out. Evan Nilsson is the other, coming in from Porto. Whether that's been announced yet, I'm not too sure, but that one is happening. So I think that's a very good signing for less than they've sold Solanke for. So they've made a bit of profit there. Young striker, and he's very good for Porto. A lot of people have said, if he scores 1 in 2 in the Portuguese league, that means 1 in 5 in the Premier League. I really don't think that's true. I think if you're able to score and you're able to get yourselves in the right position, I don't really think it matters what league you're playing in. You're still playing in a top European league, so I don't think the difference is that big. And I think he'll be a very good signing for them. Probably a player that will go to Chelsea in about 2 years for 150 million. But yeah, I think Bournemouth have done well so far. I think they'll see a few more signings as well. Fulham, I think they have been pretty good in the transfer window. Smith Rowe is the notable one. For me, I think signing Emil Smith Rowe on a permanent from Arsenal, very, very good transfer. And he will really... when he played for Arsenal, he was very good. He had that great run in the team. But now that he's going to be the star of the show at Fulham, I really think he's going to step into that role very well. And I've got him in my fantasy league team. I think he'll tear it up for Fulham, and I think Arsenal might maybe regret not keeping him. Although I don't know where he fits into that side, to be honest. So, yeah, interesting one. But Fulham, I've got them 12th, which may be a bit high, but I think they'll be very good. Brighton, they have brought in quite a few players. Yankuba Minty from Newcastle, I believe he was on loan. Was it Feyenoord last season or PSV? I can't remember. One of the top Dutch sides and had a very good season. Mats Wiefer from Feyenoord they've signed as well, defensive midfielder. They've signed Brajan Gruda. I'm not too sure about him, but he played for Mainz last season. He's a right winger. Ibrahim Osman from Nordsjælland, a young left winger. That you can see a real trend here. Wiefer's 24, but other than that, all the players I've listed are 19, 20. An 18-year-old Malik Yauku from Göteborg. Swedish League, again, another young Scandinavian kid. So they are... You can really see the recruitment strategy of Brighton again being in full flow, and you're pretty confident that for every 10 young players they sign, 8 or 9 of them will be absolute gems by the looks of it. So they'll be very happy with what they're doing. As for departures, Dennis Undav has gone to Stuttgart on a permanent. He was there on loan last season. Pascal Gross has left, gone to Dortmund. That's a shame because he was their top Premier League scorer ever. Mark Leonard to Blues. Now, I know he didn't feature for Brighton, but he's going to rip up League One. And Lallana's gone on a free to Southampton. But Yeah, Brighton, I think they've had a very, very good window so far. There's also links to Jorginho Ruta from Leeds. 40 million release clause has apparently been activated. If they get him, that'll be a very good signing. And to be honest, I think Brighton could break into that top half quite easily. But it's just there's a lot of sides that have done good business, so it's a bit tough to break into the top half. As for the top 10, so we've got some interesting sides in here, a bit of an interesting order. So we start off top half, 10th place. I've got Palace. Now, with how well they ended last season under Glasner, I actually thought they'd probably break into the top 8, probably be in Europe. However, Michael Elise is absolutely brilliant. Losing him to Bayern Munich, yeah, they got a very good fee for him, 53 million euros, but they are really going to see him missing. They have signed Ismail Assar as his replacement on the right. I think it's a good signing, but it's not Michael Elise. Kamada on a free. Good signing, attacking midfielder. Chadi Riyad from Real Betis, a centre-back, a young centre-back. There's some good signings there, but the loss of Elise, for me, means they'll be in the top half, or maybe Brighton will sneak past them, but I think between 9th and 11th is probably where we'll be seeing Crystal Palace. And on to Chelsea. Now, if you'd have asked me at the end of last season where I thought Chelsea would finish this season, I would have said to you, I think they'll be in the top 4, probably in 3rd position. And the reason for that is that Mauricio Pochettino seemed to have them in a real great flow. I think they won their last 5 or 6 league games in a row. They started putting together some very good performances. And they just looked like a different team compared to what we'd seen in the first half of the season. However, Pochettino left. In comes Enzo Maresca, a manager that a lot of Leicester fans complained about not having a plan B, and I just don't think it's going to work out for him. I'm not sure why, or maybe Pochettino had a tough first bit at the club, and then it started to come good at the end. So maybe Maresca will be similar, but I don't know what happened with that relationship with Pochettino, but I really, really think if he'd have stayed, they'd have been in for a good season. Signings, they've brought in Pedro Neto, 60 million euros. Good signing. If they keep him fit, he will be brilliant. If they don't, if he plays about half the games, I'm sure he'll be very, very impactful. But again, I guess they're a squad where they have enough depth for him to be injured. So yeah, good signing. Maybe a bit on the high side. Brilliant player, don't get me wrong, but with that injury, with you only really getting half a season out of him, maybe it's not as good a deal. Dewsbury Hall in from Leicester, good player. Not sure he's good enough for Chelsea at the moment, maybe, but we'll see. We'll see how he gets on. Philip Jorgensen, goalkeeper from Villarreal, another Football Manager player that I've got, and good goalkeeper, only 22. We'll see how he gets on if he even starts, because Chelsea have about 8 goalkeepers, but it's a good signing. And then quite a lot of young kids from 18 to 20 years old, ranging from 20 million to 5 million pretty much. There's a lot of signings there, but Adarabioyo on a free, decent for depth. They've sold a couple of left backs, Ian Matson and Lewis Hall. Amari Hutchinson's gone to Ipswich, but that's about it really. Free transfer, Ziyech. Thiago Silva's left, which obviously massive for leadership, but yeah, not much other than that. So Chelsea, I've got them 9th. I think they could be higher, but I just don't think the manager will get the best out of the side. Villa, I've got them dropping to 8th from their 4th place finish this season, and that is based on, well, Douglas Luiz has gone. They've replaced him with Amadou Onana. Not really the same type of player for me. I think Douglas Luiz will be a bit more influential than Onana will be. So there's a bit of a loss there. Ian Matson, I think that's a good signing, a good strong left back, and getting Cameron Archer and Jaden Philogene back as well, very good. Illing Jr. from Juventus along with Baranachea, Lewis Dobbin coming in, Ross Barkley coming in. They're all good depth signings. Onana's going to play, Matson's going to play, the rest seem to be for depth. But I just think other sides have done better business than them, and they've lost Douglas Luiz and they've lost Moussa Diaby. So although Diaby wasn't amazing, it's still a winger missing. You've kind of replaced him with Philogene, but maybe at a different stage of his career, considering he's only 22. I don't know. I think Villa could finish higher. I don't think they'll get Champions League because they're playing in the Champions League, so they're always going to give a bit more to that because probably not expected to get in the Champions League again. So they'll probably try and make the most of it, but I don't know about Villa. I think maybe other sides have done better business than them. Man United, I've got them in 7th spot, and they've made some good signings. Now, defensively, that's where their downfall was last season. I know, well, they weren't great in attack either, but defensively they lost so many players through to injury, and they've actually now got rid of Rafael Varane and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So they have sold defensive players, and they've brought some others in. Lenny Yoro, who's already on crutches, but 18-year-old centre-back. High fee, but if he reaches his potential, it'll be a very good signing. Matthijs de Ligt, I think that's a great signing. He will be the starting centre-back, you'd think, with Lisandro Martinez in this side, and that is a good partnership, a very good partnership. They've also brought in Mazraoui to replace Wan-Bissaka. 2 players from Bayern, him and De Ligt, going together to Man United, so I think they'll help each other settle in, and I think that's a good signing as well. Joshua Zirkzee from Bologna, he's one where he's had his first real good season in that Bologna side last year, but it was a very specific system. So whether that can translate to Ten Hag's system is a different story. We won't know until we see him in action. It could be a great signing. He might really struggle to start off with, so that's one to look out for. But yeah, these are my 7th to 10th place squads. Maybe you'd think Man U and Villa could be higher. Maybe Chelsea and as well, and then Palace you could think maybe might drop out. On to the top 6, or at least 3rd place to 6th place, so the fight for the UCL. We have got in 6th place, we've gone for West Ham. The reason I've gone for West Ham is that their squad, the transfers they've made, they look like they could be this season's Villa, really. You know, maybe even push for that top 4. But I think 6th, I think probably for West Ham, between 6th and 8th is sensible. But yeah, good signings from West Ham. They've brought in a couple of centre-backs. So they've got Todibo from Nice on a loan. Very good signing. They've brought in Max Kilman as well to, I'm guessing, partner him. That'll probably be their new partnership. And he's a good centre-back. Somerville, the Championship Player of the Season. I think he won it. It might have been Schmodix, but it was definitely between those two. Or maybe he won Young Player of the Season. But Somerville, brilliant for Leeds. Looked good in the Premier League last time he was there as well with Leeds. So you've already got a player that's had a bit of experience there. He's still 22. I think Somerville is a great signing. Nicholas Füllkrug from Dortmund, 31, so, you know, maybe not the most mobile player either, but I think that is a great signing, a brilliant finisher. he is the sort of target man you need in a West Ham side that's filled with pace behind and brilliant passes of the ball. I think he'll be very good. Lewis Gilherm, a young winger from Palmeiras. Don't know too much about him, but it's an interesting signing. I'm sure it's one for the future. Will be the understudy to Bowen, you'd imagine. Wan-Bissaka coming in. Good signing, solid right back. And I think, I think that's a great signing, a great defensive right back. Guido Rodriguez as well from Real Betis. Good signing. I think the bulk of those will be playing. I think they're all improvements to their current squad. I really like the signings of Somerville and Fulkrug in attack. You'd imagine now it's going to be Fulkrug up front with Somerville, Bowen and Mohamed Kudus behind them. Because I'm not sure about Paqueta's situation, whether he's going to be able to play. I can't remember what happened with him last time. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've had to focus on Premier League football. But yeah, Paqueta will play if he's able to, but maybe he'll be a little bit deeper. But they've got depth now as well, and I think under Lopetegui, this squad will be brilliant. Sales, Thilo Kehrer gone to Monaco. The centre-backs they've signed are better than him. Benrahma and Flynn Downs has gone as well, but those players barely played. Ben Johnson barely played. All of the signings have been improvements. They haven't really lost too many, any players that would have effect in that side. So I'm excited about West Ham this season. I think Palace, what I thought Palace were going to be at the end of last season for this season is what I think West Ham will be. I think they'll get 6th, which will be a brilliant season. Liverpool in 5th. Now, maybe this is a little bit of a strange one. You'd think Liverpool should be in the top 4, but Klopp's gone. Arne Slot comes in, so they've got to really get used to a new philosophy, a new manager. They haven't made any signings either. There's a lot of defenders that are in a year left of their contract, and Salah wasn't great at the back end of last season. He really looked like he was uninterested. Whether that was something to do with a bit of tension between him and Klopp, I'm not sure. I just don't know about Liverpool. I don't know what to expect of them, but I think it might take some time to get into a rhythm, and that time will cost them the top 4. Not much else to speak about because of the transfer situation with Liverpool. They're looking at Georgia goalkeeper Mamadashvili. Probably pronounced that awfully, but he had a very good Euros with Georgia, and that would be a good signing. But I'm assuming Alisson's staying, so Alisson will be the playing goalkeeper. So, on to 4th place. Liverpool could get the Champions League as well because 5th is open to it. England didn't get that this season, but they could get it next. Newcastle in 4th. I think this is more about them not having a fully fit squad. They had a lot of injury issues. And I mean, other than Man United, they were probably the side hit by injuries the worst last season. To be honest, they might have even been worse than Man United. I just remember Newcastle, Man United and Brighton all suffering with a lot of injuries. Apologies if I've missed any sides there, but them 3 really stood out for me. Newcastle, they're getting Sandro Tonali back from his ban, which is a massive positive because he is a very, very good midfielder, and he kind of completes their midfield with Joelinton and Bruno Guimaraes. Alexander Isak, obviously, brilliant striker. They've brought in Vlachodimos as a goalkeeper. William Asula, a young striker, to go as an understudy to Isak and Wilson. And then Lewis Hall comes in permanently. So as of transfers, not too much has happened. They've got rid of Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minte, but other than that, I think they've kept the same sort of squad, but they're all going to be fresh. And if they can keep that squad fit, I think Newcastle will get top 4 again, like they did the season before last because they had a fully fit squad. So that's my theory around Newcastle. Spurs, I think they're going to have a very good season. They were great for large parts of the start of last season, and then injuries started to get to them a bit as well. A lot of teams hampered by injuries last season. But they've brought in Solanke from Bournemouth. Great signing. As I said earlier, maybe on the pricey side, but I think that's a very good striker to bring in. Archie Gray from Leeds had a standout season, still 18. Wilson Odobert from Burnley, again, a great young winger, only 19. Lucas Bergvall from Djurgården in the Swedish league. He's a player, another one, from Football Manager. I do like signing a lot of young players on Football Manager, but he has looked very good in pre-season as well. They've got a pretty stacked squad as it is. They've got rid of Emerson Royale, Joe Rodon, Eric Dyer, Sessegnon, but again, a lot of these weren't featuring too much. Perisic, maybe another big name, but not players that feature too much. So for me, Spurs, I think they'll get that form back from the start of last season, plus having Solanke up front because he is going to be the starting striker. I think Spurs will be very strong and get third spot, which means the top two are the top two for the past 2 seasons, Arsenal and Man City. The title race was even closer last year, with Arsenal taking it all the way to the last day, I think they did, but Man City got the job done. This one, it's going to be interesting to see who wins the league. I'm going for Arsenal. Little bit of a shock, maybe. Man City, I just think, with rumours, there were rumours that Ederson was leaving. He has now said he's staying, but whether he's fully focused, maybe not. De Bruyne, there were rumours he was going as well, but they seem to have settled, so maybe he stays. They've only signed Savinho, was on loan at Girona last season, had a good season when they qualified for Champions League, but a young winger, whether he's going to make a massive impact to their attack, maybe not at the moment. They've still got a lot of good players there, but Julian Alvarez gone to Atletico Madrid, 75 million euros. That's it, really. Pretty much a straight swap on their transfers. Savio in, Julian Alvarez out, but they have said Julian Alvarez has left, Oscar Bob has got an injury for a few months, so they are in the market for another attacker. That attacker could really determine if I think they'll get first. However, Man City have won it quite a few times in a row now, and I've got a feeling for Arsenal it will be third time lucky, and I know Arsenal fans will hope that. I just think Man City might not be all there this season. The COVID season was when they didn't win the league. Liverpool beat them to it, and they were very off it that season. I don't think they'll be really off it this season at all. I think they will be top 2. But I've just got a feeling that Arsenal are going to pit them to it. They're finally going to get over the line. And I think Arsenal have done some decent business. But I think the main thing for Arsenal is that they've got that experience now of being in that race. And although they haven't won it, players like Havertz seeming to come into their best kind of form, and I think the solidity that they had last season, they'll just push it that one step further. They've made David Raya a permanent signing from Brentford. Ricardo Calafiori had a good Euros, had a good season last year with Bologna, 45 million, 22-year-old centre-back. Good signing for me. I said he had a good Euros. Italy had a poor Euros, but he looked like a player that was alright for them. So, Emil Smith-Rowe leaves, but didn't really get much chance there anyway. I think Arsenal will just get over the line. I don't know why. But yeah, I don't really have many reasons other than I think it. It's just a gut feeling. So, let me know what you think down in the comments. Give me your predictions. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.